All right, good morning. So I'm going to try to help you out with this lesson 13. This is activity or level 8, and this is activity B. So what they're looking for is they want to have, as you can see this image here, these bubbles that are rising. So what they're asking you to do is basically create the ellipse, and then it's just going to change your Y position from the bottom to the top. So how they want you to do that is to create a new variable to keep track of the changing Y position of the bubbles. So to do that, we're going to go to the variables piece here, and we're going to grab in this. And this is an initial, since this is an initial setup, and let's put that underneath the green fish. Since this is an initial setup, that's why it should be above the draw function here, the draw loop. So I'm just going to do this as, let's say we have set Y position. So that's not like that, set Y position. And of course, camel case here. So we have a capital Y, and then since position is a new word, it is also capital P. All right, so set Y position, and it does say here to set that value to 400 or another number near the bottom of the grid. I will do 400 as they indicate, which is the bottom right here through the Y axis. Now it says use appropriate properties to draw at least one bubble. Okay, so what we're going to do is draw a bubble. So to draw the bubble, we're going to go to drawing, and we're going to draw this bubble, and I'm going to put it in here for now, and let's see what we want to do. So the ellipse. Okay, so we're going to draw an ellipse. Now, there's definitely some properties you're going to want to think about how we're going to have this bubble so that we have, you see how they have the outline of the bubble, but there's actually is clear in the middle of that. But we can see what the default is, and then we can go from there. The size of the bubbles are these last two parameters. So if I'm going to make them a bit smaller, let's say 20 and 20 to start, maybe 50-50 might be ideal. And then the position of this being 200, 200. Well, this is where you can see the bubbles. We could do a more of a randomized positioning on the X, but we just created a variable for our Y position. So I'm going to actually put in my set Y, so that if I change that value, that will then automatically change and update my Y value here. But like I said, the X value, we could do 200, but that's literally like going to be right here in the middle of the screen, and then we're ultimately going to go up from here. It's perfectly fine. I can leave that for now, and let's see what the instructions, if they say something different. Yep, use a variable to create to specify the Y position. Good. And then use a counter pattern when with subtraction to your variable to make the ellipse slowly rise. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's just see where we're at with what we have. Okay. So I can't see the actual ellipse, and that would be because in this draw loop, this is all happening over top of this. So this is happening, but it's happening on top of it. So that is there for a reason. It's like, okay, well, that didn't show up. So in order for me to show up, I do need to include it then in this draw loop. So let's do that. So I'm going to bring in here, and I actually can do I have a comment? Yeah, there we are. So I'm going to add in my own comment in here to just, let's going to put it in here somewhere. And I'm going to just say draw bubbles. Okay. Jeez. Bubbles. Okay. And now I'm going to grab this ellipse that we had here, and let's see what it looks like. I already know I'm going to have to do some playing around, but at least this gets us started. Okay, so let's reset, run. Okay, I can barely see a bubble right there. Obviously, we haven't done anything to make it move, and it looks like it's going to be like this gray bubble and so on. So we do need to do a little bit of work because obviously the default's only give us what I want. And if I just want to update that really quickly, I could have done this so you can see, but I'm just telling you it's a gray circle. Let's take a look what our tools are here. We want to have no fill, that's for sure. That's going to give us that kind of like transparency. So let's put that in here. So we're going to do it before you draw the ellipse. If you recall, this is like doing your paintbrush, setting the stage. We're going to have stroke color. So the stroke color is that outside part, and we don't want it to be blue. Let's put it white. So So we have the stroke, we have no fill, and then we have that. Let's reset that and we can run it. And we should see more like what you would expect to see as a bubble. And they look like they're about the same thing. We could change that stroke so that it's a little bit a bigger weight as well if you want. So that's the stroke weight. And if I want to change that to maybe something like 4 from other than the default, maybe a little bit thicker, I could do that. And, you could keep it like that or put it back to the default. Maybe the default was fine. But regardless, here we are. We have our bubbles drawn. But now what we need to do is move the bubble so that it goes upwards. So this is that counter pattern we were talking about. So we basically need to change that Y position so that it's going to be updating with this counter pattern. So what we're going to do is take our Y position and we're going to use a subtraction piece so that it's going to reduce from 400 all the way up to the top. Okay, so just like you can see here, see how they did this with the orange fish, they made it move. So this gives you a bit of a model. It's like, hey, wait a minute, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. So that's what we're basically going to do. So we're going to take our variable, which we have as a set position, and we're going to change that so that it's going to constantly change our Y. So let's take our purple piece here. Okay. And very similar idea, but we're going to just changing this set Y position. So we're going to say, hey, your set Y position. Oops. So important that it's spelled exactly the same or it's not going to be recognized. And then what we're going to do is say, hey, you're going to take your set Y position and we're going to subtract it by something. So we're going to say set Y position again, because we're updating that variable to be changed to whatever we want to subtract it from. Now, we have to decide. It does not say in our instructions what we want to subtract it by. I'm going to model the orange fish. Let's try 2. If I hit enter, that automatically updates it so I have the math block. You could have just dragged the math block as well. That would have worked. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, so you can see that these bubbles rise a little bit faster than that. And that stroke weight actually is kind of bugging me. So I'm going to do 3. Let's say I could do 3 here. Go back to the original. And I'm going to go, I want to move faster. So in order for the bubbles to rise faster, I would therefore have to increase this value. So let's do something like 4. Let's reset and let's take a look. Okay, so that's a little more like it. So you can decide in the end what you want for your speed. So again, just make your value bigger and it can go faster. And as you can see in the image here, you do have 3 bubbles. So all you would have to do is replicate this. You do not need to replicate the stroke, the weight, and so on. All we'd have to do is just create another ellipse. So I'll model that. Let me just do that really quickly with you right now. So let's create another ellipse. I just want to show you that once you've done all the work for one, it's quite simple to do it for another one. I want to make sure, of course, I don't have the same position as this one right here. So I'm just going to go to the left of the screen, maybe somewhere around here. So you can see like around the 62, 60 mark. So let's say 60. I'm going to still do the same set Y position because I'm going to basically, again, like we did the work for one, we're going to do so it really replicates over to the other. And I think the 2020 worked out fine for size. Okay, so now I should be able to see 2 bubbles that have the same pattern because they have the same set Y position. And then you can see that how that works. What you could do, yeah, I mean, you could change it. Like there's different timings of these. You could play around with what you want to do. Again, add another one. You could do random X value using your math if you want to just switch it up so that the bubbles don't always start at the same spot. And you can decide how you want to play with that. Okay, anyways, I really hope that helps you with this activity. And you can also have a little fun with this. Make these fish move as well. All right, take care.